Advisory Committee for January 19th, 2022. I'll open the meeting by reading our land acknowledgement. On January 19th, 2022, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I'd like to welcome back our Housing Advisory Committee meeting members. Thank you for your past contributions, and it's great to have everyone back together in 2022. I'll ask for a motion for approval of the agenda, please. Moved by, I don't have all hands, I see Lorraine and Lindsay, all in favor? Thank you. I need a motion for the approval of minutes from our December 8th meeting. Moved by Vicky, seconded by Joanne, all in favor? Thank you, that's carried. I'll ask for any disclosure of monetary interest. I see none. We have no delegations today. So we'll go directly into our priority issues, and I will start with the portable housing benefit, item 6A. So after our past meeting, I brought a report or basically feedback to Committee of the Whole at our budget meeting on December 13th, I believe it was, indicating that the advisory committee was requesting the establishment of a portable housing benefit, and a request that the town would commit about 1% of tax revenue, so we're around $150,000 to $170,000 to this portable housing benefit. And I'm not sure if anyone had the opportunity to tune in to the Committee of the Whole meeting. Committee had a pretty broad discussion on it. And the overall consensus was that we didn't need to have a specific inclusion within the budget for a portable housing benefit. In other words, because of a good surplus in 2021, as well as strong reserves, if council could make a decision sometime this year to enact a portable housing benefit. Part of the, I guess the questions that came forward was really more about the devils and the details and how this could be implemented. So there was a number of, I guess, of good points raised, and I would say there is some degree of support at that level. Some maybe not all members of Committee of the Whole or council, but an interest in getting more information from the county, having interactions with the county about how this could be implemented, and have Emily Hollington come to a Committee of the Whole meeting in order to interact with council to try and help see if this is something that could be managed at the county level. Understanding, as Emily mentioned before, it would also require approval from county council in order to do so. So this moment, I believe staff have reached out to the county to try to gain further insight and feedback. And I believe we'll be coming back to a Committee of the Whole, but I wanted to bring a report back to this group today, and an opportunity for the group to provide feedback, which obviously members of council can tune in and watch this and I get some understanding of how our committee members feel about a portable housing benefit. So with that, I will open the floor to any questions or comments. Joanne.
You said that they had some questions regarding how we're going to be processing the applications. Was there any feedback on what they would recommend, like what the town recommended?
No, I guess there's the feedback wasn't consistent from one member to another. There was some who said it's the understanding the details is very important, how the county implement this. So as an example, today, if someone applied for a portable housing benefit and got that portable housing benefit, they can use it anywhere in the county. So what would happen in the future if we had a program, we funded it, and we're supporting someone in our town and they move to Perth, as an example? Does that cease? Does that cease it? Or does that carry on? How do we protect, I guess, primarily our taxpayers who would be funding this if it was ever created? There is some sense that it goes beyond our municipal responsibility, and in most places across the province, it is larger cities or upper tier governments, like county level or regional governments, that do manage this. They are the service provider that has that relationship with the province. It's funded by the province. So we would be a bit of an outlier in that area. It doesn't mean that it can't be done, but so that's some of the feedback that was received. Lindsay?
I'm still formulating my question, so I'm gonna let Vicky go first.
Okay, go ahead, Vicky.
Thank you. Excuse me. For sharing wise, I don't think we should stop it should somebody move out of county. I think we should do, as suggested before, but perhaps partner with different counties for this. That way we have unlimited budgets. That way we have like no qualms on where anybody moves. The whole point is to keep people housed, and it doesn't matter where at this point, because Smith Falls is becoming so extremely overpriced. Like nobody can afford it. That's on any form of assistance. They're all having to get roommates. It's becoming very unsafe, as we know, etc.
Well, great point, Vicky, and that's another, I guess, point of consideration. The county has hired a consultant to put together a housing study that will be coming forward, I think, probably in April. And I'm anticipating the outcome of that will be more current data on the challenges that people within the county, including Smith Falls, are facing today. And as we discussed at our previous meeting, the county, including Smith Falls, does pay for the portable housing benefit. It's coming from local tax dollars. So there is there, I guess the question would be, is there political will countywide to say we need to increase that? We know that today there are 60 portable housing benefits across the county. We spread that across our populations. That obviously is a pretty modest number. And there's a commitment to increase that, I think, every second year going forward. But 10 more every second year still leaves a considerable shortfall. So from an advocacy standpoint, I think as this information emerges come spring, I think it would be important that, one, we address it again, and that we potentially, and we push at the county level to say we need to do more collectively, more so than Smith Falls stepping up. And if that was a method and the plan going forward, Smith Falls, through our shared services agreement with the county, would simply pay our fair share. And to your point, Vicky, anyone could sort of live anywhere in the county and move from one community to another and still retain their portable housing benefit. Lindsay?
Yeah, that was actually just good to sit and listen, because it helped me on a few things. But I mean, obviously my initial reaction when I hear the first feedback from the delivery is like, ugh. You know, I'd love to see just full council support and going, obviously this is something that we need to be pushing, but I think you've actually explained it quite well, Sean. Like, there's only so much perhaps that this council can do, but maybe we need to be exploring exactly what this council can do and ensure we do it. And it's similar to, like, you know, writing the letters like we have already to the ministries about just the adjustments and what we think about certain building codes, for example. Maybe Smith Falls truly has to take the first stab at it in terms of writing to the county saying, we as a council feel like everyone within this county should see this as a priority. And at minimum, maybe our council in town can take that step. And as a whole, the county can then kind of worry about the nitty-gritty details. And there's a lot of them. Like there's a lot to digest and figure out. And I don't think anyone can downplay that. But on a collective standpoint, I think if everyone got together and did it, yes. So I think it'd be great to just see this council urgently take to paper at least a letter to the county urging that this become a top priority. I would say in every meeting moving forward, that's a good first step. Yeah, that's just kind of, I guess my thought on it is like, I would have loved to have seen council just jump on it and go, yes. But if that's not going to be the case, at minimum, I think council needs to advocate for the members of at least Smiths Falls right now, which is ensuring that they're pushing for the county as a whole to deal with this.
Thank you, Lindsay. Vicky, and then back to Joanne.
Oh, crap. Sorry, excuse me. I just lost my train of thought. Can we just come back to me?
Sure.
Thanks.
Joanne?
Okay, I heard what Vicky is saying, that rents are crazy everywhere across the county. But I sort of feel that if we are going to be, or having the town support having that extra money, that it should be for Smith Falls families. Not that Perth doesn't deserve it, but we had also talked about maybe addressing the other mayors and asking them if they would be on board. So that way we are collectively supporting the county. So I don't know, has anything like that been talked about, like within the mayors?
So not directly with the mayors, there has been discussions at Community Services Committee. We've had 3 meetings. And so that would be the mayor and deputy mayor, or even deputy reeve, from each of the municipalities across Lanark County, as well as Councillor McKenna and I, who sit on the Community Services Committee at County Council. So that out of that, the outcome of that was, one of the outcomes was the hiring of a consultant to put together the housing study. So there hasn't been anything beyond that. There hasn't been anything specifically speaking to increase in the portable housing benefit or any other programs that might be suitable. But as I mentioned, I think it's reasonable to expect the housing study will lead to some more current data, which should hopefully motivate county council to potentially commit more dollars and resources to housing. And it's hard to predict what the outcome will be, because we don't know what the study will indicate. But I think we all understand that the needs are greater than the resources that are available today. Joanne, and not to say I couldn't reach out simply to the urban mayors within Lanark County to see, because we're the ones who are bearing the brunt of this, and to gauge what their thoughts are. So back to Vicky, and then over to Ali.
Yeah, sorry. Just wondering, could we invite anybody from council to attend our meetings and answer any questions they may have? Perhaps the ones that are more on the no side than the yes side, or even ones on the yes side to bring back to the table the answers. I know some people are on here that are on council, but I feel like the more they have proper answers, the better.
Yeah, and I mentioned I think they're aware we have a housing advisory committee that is working, and even sharing the link to some of our past meetings would give them some insight that they may be not experiencing today. Good point, Vicky. Ellie?
Just in regards to this, housing consultation that, Lanark, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if Lanark County is hiring them or if it's Smith Falls County that's hiring them. But is it like a needs-based analysis? Is it a mapping research project? Is it like a program evaluation project? Like, what are the results that we're hoping to get from it? Just because, like, from my perspective, if we're looking at, we just did the point in time count.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like a solid number. I'm wondering, like, what further information is Smith Falls Council looking for to show that we have a housing crisis in Smith Falls?
So part of it is, so I think it's all that you mentioned, all 3, basically, and it would take a lot of the information that's already available. So the point in time count would contribute. I think we all understand that that also was a moment in time that probably is not truly reflective of the volume of people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness right now. So it will So back to what our council, I believe, is looking for from a portable housing benefit standpoint is those details as to how would the program be implemented? What are the eligibility factors? What would happen if someone was receiving a PHB and moved away from Smiths Falls? And of course, the other factor being once implemented, this is permanent. In other words, we can't ever pull back. Part of it is a suggestion, obviously, that this is a responsibility of the county government and also provincial and federal governments as well. So we don't bear the brunt of this on our own. So a variety of concerns, but I'm hopeful that the report that comes to community services at the county level will provide us with the information we need to better understand the magnitude of the issue today. Not just the volume of people who are struggling, but also the depth of that struggle and what kind of shortfalls people are facing and the impact that has on every other factor of their life when they're spending upwards of half of their income or sometimes more than that on housing. Or I think it was Vicky's point, people who are having to cohabitate in too many people in small spaces in order to be able to even afford to put a roof over their head. So I'm hopeful that's the kind of information that comes out of this, but I'm not certain.
Okay, I mean, I guess from my perspective, I'm thinking, we know there's a housing crisis. We don't really need a needs analysis for a mapping study done. Like, we're in Smiths Falls, that's where it's at. I understand, the contention between a portable housing benefit, but I guess then I'm wondering, why are we looking at a portable housing benefit? Why don't we just look at rent supplements, which could be partnered directly to the landlord or to the tenant as, choosing. And then when we're talking about, program implementation, I mean, there's tons of studies out there that have already showed you, how to end homelessness. So I'm wondering, is that kind of the information that council would like us to show? Like, is council wanting us to come and be like, okay, we're going to do a rent supplement. We're going to do a rent supplement because, this evidence-based practice shows that this evidence-based practice shows that this evidence-based practice showed it. Like, what kind of tangible things are they looking for? Because I feel like as a housing advisory committee, that's something we could pull together, to be honest, quite quickly.
Well, that stuff I think would be helpful. Part of the challenge, I guess, or maybe you Ellie, you've got access to information I haven't seen, but would be what is that on the local level? So how do we apply all of this to our local environment and our citizens? I think I think demonstrating how critically important and affordable housing is to someone's health and welfare, I think is a case we can make probably pretty clear. But how do we quantify the people locally who are in difficult situations today? I mean, we can use the metrics of income measurement, but unfortunately, we're still working with the 2016 census data, which will be updated this spring, I believe, and that'll give us a more current picture. And we know that we've long had a disproportionate number of people living in low income. And so if those on fixed income or modest incomes have no more income today than they had in 2016, maybe a modest adjustment for inflation, but the cost of their housing has gone up by, pick a number, right? 50%, 100% since in the last 5 or 6 years. We know the situation today is more difficult. How we can create that, I feel that, I see that, I hear that, but how do I measure that? How do I articulate that clearly to council? Where are those real life situations? And maybe maybe we need to try and reach out to the community and get better feedback and get a deeper understanding from the citizens of our town exactly what they're experiencing. And it's a matter of maybe how we would do that.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, you can ask any committee, any service provider in Lanark County or Smiths Falls right now what their biggest issue is, whether that's Lanark County mental health, whether that's your seniors, whether that's your youth at risk committee, whether that's your situation table. They're all going to say housing. So I think, we've got Jeff Mills here. He does seniors and housing. You know, you can call Terry Lee Kelford. She's got youth housing. We've got the county, like Lanark County Mental Health. They have housing caseworkers now that they're working with to provide those wraparound supports. Like there's lots of people out there doing this work within Lanark County and within Smith Falls. If it's a question of pulling the people together to get, you know, that qualitative storytelling data, because we already have the quantitative data, right? So I'm just wondering, and I know you're talking about like inflation prices. Well, realtors all over Smith Falls are like, I mean, I follow tons of them on Instagram, and they're always posting like, you know, 66% increases in Smith Falls in the last 10 years for housing, right? So I mean, the information's there. I'm just wondering, you know, do you want me to do you want us to throw like a 5-pager together to be like, boom, here you go? Because I feel like I feel like we'd all be pretty comfortable doing that.
But I think that's part of it, is being able to paint the picture, not just quantitatively, but qualitatively as well, and to be able to demonstrate the real life stories, but build some numbers around it. And perhaps it's reaching out to all of those potential service providers and organizations that are interacting with members of our public who are precariously housed or homeless today. Or again, maybe it's a matter of going back and doing some a survey, a method of feedback to the community, so we can get that firsthand information. How many people today are paying more for housing than they were paying 3 years ago? How much more are they paying? What's the difference in their income today compared to what it was before? What kind of income do they have left over after paying for housing? So I think it may be fairly easy, and I don't think we want to make overly complicated, but I think it's important to get relevant data. Vicki and then Lindsay.
All due respect, I've given a presentation on every person I saw in a week that was homeless or at risk of being homeless, currently looking for housing and had a limited budget. I've given heartbreaking stories. I have more saved on my phone if we need to put it together another presentation. I have no problems giving this presentation to council professionally. However, I will not sit here and be told I need to hear more heartbreaking stories. We're going to hear of more deaths before we hear of anything to help, and I'm at a loss. I represent the renters, and there's nothing being done for us. I'm currently in a situation where the bills are getting so high because it's winter now. If anything changes, my family is in that situation that everybody else is in. I don't know how to quantify this. I don't know how to prove this to anyone. I don't know how to paint a nicer picture for anybody. I can do my best, but we've given all of our data from Smith Falls. I'm very passionate about this because now it's affecting my family yet again. And if we limitate this portable housing benefit to just one county, we'll then cut it out altogether, because that would have screwed me out of being here altogether and helping anybody here. Sorry, but now I'm getting really upset because I'm being told we need to paint a prettier picture, and that's really not how I work. I've done everything I can do. I can continue doing what I can do, but at this point, we need action. We don't need to just keep showing people that people are suffering. They're literally homeless. They're selling everything they own. Their kids are living in motels. Their kids are having to live with grandparents because they can't stay in motels. If you call up CAS, they'll be happy to give you any sob story you want. I'm sorry.
Well, Vicki, I appreciate your passion and your insight. And I think what we're trying to do here is try and provide council with a level of understanding they believe they need to make that decision. And whether that is taking information we already have or getting additional information. And it's not just here. As I mentioned, if we're going to be taking this to the county and trying to convince members of county council that the county needs to do more, I can tell you that the county councilors will want detail. They'll want a greater understanding.
I keep being told that, oh, council has said no, they need more. And I understand that. I get that we're going to have a lot of proof to quantify any amount of anything we need. But at this point, I need some glimmer of hope that, oh, council is willing to work with us or something. Council is willing to come on the meetings and join us. Council is willing to watch past meetings. But at this point, I'm not sure what the heck they were elected for. They're just sitting there going, not sure, need more data.
Thanks, Vicki. Lindsay and then Jeff. Oh, sorry, Courtney first. You've had your hand up for a bit. Sorry.
I mean, are we not called the housing committee? Like, it's kind of clear that one of the main things we've been talking about this entire time is the need for affordable housing. Okay, well, if we can't give affordable housing, then how can we help people afford the unaffordable housing? Like, we've had so many meetings. Our last meeting was literally just, we took up the whole meeting with that one section. And like Vicky said, we've given so many presentations, we've collected so much data. If council gets this data, are they going to work with us and try and help us find the data we need? And are they going to go, okay, yeah, this is great, we're on board? Or are they going to go, okay, great data, but we still really can't do this? Like, once they get that information, is it something that they're willing to do and willing to work with us? Or is it just kind of a no?
I can't predict how each member of council would vote on this. And Lorraine, if you feel you want to chime in, because you were at the committee the whole meeting in December when we discussed this, my hope is that the greater understanding each member has, the harder it would be to not follow through and provide what I think all of us believe is needed in our community. But everyone brings a different perspective and understanding to the council horseshoe. And everyone will vote based on what they believe is best for the community, and that's what we do in all decisions. So I mean, it's important that they have the opportunity to. I'm glad these meetings are recorded. They have an opportunity to see these, to hear the feedback, to understand. But they say the challenge that I can anticipate, and that's why I keep bringing this back, is there are some who would want to have more hard data. And with respect, Vicky, it's one thing to hear stories through, I'll say hearsay. I mean, you're providing information that you've heard. And I mean it in the right way, but I want to make sure that they have the information they need to make the right decision. In my mind,
workers have also come on here and said everything they could say. Everybody in every form of position that works with the government or works with our county has come on here and spoken. I apologize. I don't work with the nonprofit sector. I'm self-employed, and I merely represent the renters. That's what I'm coming from. Mm-hmm. So if somebody needs further clarification, I invite them to this meeting. I invite myself to council. I have no problems representing. Let me know if there's any way I can give them the presentation I gave this task force, because man, it opened. I had so many emails after that of people reaching out saying, what can I do? And at this point, when the town doesn't want to do anything, I don't really have an answer for them.
Well, not saying the town doesn't want to do something, but I'm trying to make sure. I brought this to committee of the whole twice, and it has not moved ahead. And I'll take some ownership for that, because maybe I wasn't effective enough in the presentation. But if you have those emails, forward those emails, even if it's a matter of keeping someone's name confidential. We can certainly share your presentation that's available. That can be Carrie, I'm sure, can send that to all members of council and build the case. I'm going to go back to Courtney before I go to Lindsay and then Jeff.
Is it possible for council to write up like an exact list of the exact data, whatever that they want from us, so we can start working on that right now if it's something they absolutely need? Because the longer we wait to hear what they want, then the longer it takes us to start on it.
Good point. And I can circulate an email to all members of council to see what is missing. And so I'm going to go to Lorraine before I go to Lindsay and Jeff, because Lorraine's important. Lorraine was at that meeting.
Yeah, I can appreciate the passion that we all have. That's why we're here. I mean, when I was teaching at Elgin many years ago, and I was there for a long while, I had many children who were living with other people and not sure if there's food on the table. And these aren't new situations for our town. But I think the complication that we're dealing with now is that there's good and bad in all of this, but our town is changing. We have new people and we have new housing, and we have not kept up our affordable housing for people who need it. So we right now have an abundance of wonderful homes and wonderful buildings that, as you point out, people can't afford. And I think my colleagues and I and our mayor have tried really hard to get affordable housing built. And we're still working on that, and it's a goal. But even when you do that, it's a percentage of the building. It's not the whole building. And we all know that what we do need is an affordable building, a building that would house people who, as you say, Vicki, can't afford to pay their rent. And it's a complication. I don't think my colleagues, any of them, would not be on board for helping fix this problem. But as the mayor was pointing out, when we do budget, there's so many other things that are on the table at that time. And we need to know in our heart, what's the best way of doing this? And we don't know that for sure. I mean, as a teacher, I remember sending home homework books and buying things for the families and having them over and do things. There's all kinds of things we can do to help that. But when it comes down to which direction, that in all the ways that we're looking at, and that's why we have this advisory committee, so that we can try and find advice. And we're hoping that this consultant will come back with more answers for us, being able to say to us, you know what, these are the statistics right now, and we think this would help the most. I don't know that, and I think that my colleagues are feeling the same thing. And as the mayor said, we have money now to put into it, and I'm not saying that my colleagues wouldn't vote to do that, but we want to be sure that where we're putting it is going to give us the best bang. And right now, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced we know that.
Thanks, Lorraine. And I think I remember the chat with Ellie's comments. And to that, Ellie, the other thing, of course, is that there've been no RGI units built in Smiths Falls since probably 50 years, right? So the need has grown, but the supplies never kept up to it. So Lindsay, and then Jeff, then back to Vicki.
Just a few things, because like there's a lot of frustration for sure, because it's, here we are January, and we were definitely our last meeting. It was like, let's make all this money available for just rent supplements. And I think some of the frustration, at least I feel as a member, is just sometimes we leave a meeting with a really great idea. And then like we go into the next meeting, kind of like the idea never happened, or there's just no follow through. And I think that's just something that unfortunately happens a lot, because the follow through is normally 5% of 100 ideas type thing. I will just comment on one thing though, which is I recently went to the planning committee last week for development. And I will say that everyone on that committee sees a huge urgency with housing. And I do feel like every member of that committee, which is also probably consistent with council, sees housing as a huge priority. I definitely think it's just, how do we go about doing it? We don't need the data. The data is very well in our face. And if you drive down any street in Smiths Falls, you see it. You don't need any more quantitative or qualitative, but I truly do think a lot of it is, how do we best tackle it? And I think that Sean, that's probably what the council is probably their biggest thing is, how do we best go about doing this? And bringing the ideas forward is one thing, but executing a plan that also obviously council is going to be held accountable to. They need to make sure that the right plan is made. I will just say again, development fees. If you build and you do not contribute to affordability and accessibility, you have to pay. And that money needs to be put aside for building Smiths Falls' own affordability. I think I spoke with the building inspector between the week of December 28th. They had issued 50 new building permits. That was putting him behind of, I guess, row type homes. 50 new building permits. If $1,000 was just charged to each of those, it's $50,000. Those are tangible solutions. Those are quick solutions that can be passed at council, and at minimum start creating money. Maybe you don't know how to put it into practice, but there are very tangible solutions at hand right now that can create money very quickly, that can be used, and not even within the CIP. So development fees have to be a priority. They need to be charged. they will fund crucial things. And it may not even just be affordable housing. Maybe it's going to be food programs. You know, those are all items that are super important right now. But development fees, I'm going to hammer that point. I will hammer this point every single meeting from now on in, because some meetings I haven't, and it just shocks me that it still isn't in practice. I think the only other thing I would say is I as a developer right now, I am seeing the town take this as a very serious issue. And I'm seeing it at the committee levels with applications I'm submitting. So I'm telling everyone else on this committee, there is a true urgency with the people I'm dealing with, that I'm seeing it and things are moving faster. All I can say is if we can create avenues in which planning applications can move even faster, when supply goes up, demand comes down. We can't deal with the fact that welfare isn't giving enough money to sustain the rental prices right now, but we can pump the supply and that will help. So supply and development fees. And that's my rant. I do have to sign off soon, so I just had to throw it all out there.
Well, thanks, Lindsay. And to that point, next Tuesday evening is our development charges public meeting. So, Lindsay, I'm hoping you definitely register to participate in that meeting and provide your perspective as a developer. That
I registered for the one with Julie Stewart. I don't know. Is there another one?
I'm not sure. Carrie may know better, but it's ours. It's scheduled for on the 25th.
Okay, invite me to that.
Okay. And yes, to your point, I mean, and to Lorraine's point, when we set our strategic priorities for this term of council or did our strategic plan, housing is the top priority. And we've got more housing going on right now than we've ever seen at any point in time in our history, but we all recognize affordability is beyond the reach of most people. That's why we have this advisory committee, of course. Jeff?
A few things. First, from a political standpoint, I would suggest that Smith Falls is not unique. There are 9 communities in Lanark, and most council members on those committees or on those councils are all waiting to see, you know, what the step of the county is. It's a default position they've always taken. Housing they see as a county responsibility, so they're waiting to see the results of this study. I was on one of the calls. There were a number of agencies, housing providers and other agencies that were asked onto a Zoom call, and it was a great Zoom call. I'm not sure, and maybe Mary, you can enlighten us. Are there other opportunities? Like I love that there's some anger in this room and that people are really passionate. Are you aware of a public opportunity, or could we as this committee from Smith Falls ask to have an audience with the consultants at SHS so that we can have these kinds of conversations with them? That's one thing. The other thing I wanted to mention is Cambridge, as you know, is committed to Smith Falls. We have worked tirelessly and submitted 2 rapid housing initiative applications to CMHC, and both were unsuccessful. We're now not stopping and will be submitting yet again for their co-investment funds. So, and with that will come more RGI. It's a 28 unit building, and people have to realize that that's a drop in the bucket of what you really need, but it's a good, strong step forward. And we're really hopeful that the work that we did on our applications for Rapid Housing Initiative have really put us in a pretty favorable position to get co-investment funds. So we're not stopping, we're going at it. But back to that first issue, I think that most council members in most communities in Lanark look to the county as leaders in this. So they don't want to step out. And I have to hand it to you, Mayor, and to you, Lorraine, for carrying this ball forward with your council. I would dare say most are waiting for that survey or that study from SHS. So is there a way that we could maybe have an audience with them to put these issues on the table? We've been working at this for the better part of 2 years now. It would be good to have that audience.
Thanks, Jeff. And further to the Caribridge development at 44 Chambers. So I'm not sure I mentioned our last meeting or not, but our council committed to, under our community improvement plan, a tax abatement. So basically a major reduction in taxes on that development when it does get built and occupied. And county council also committed to funding all those units to ensure they are all rent geared to income. So they'll all be subsidized by the county. So that's a very positive step in enabling that project to move ahead. It will accommodate 28 units, and so a number of families and couples and singles. So that's very encouraging. But I also recognize that the town, until we have people housed in homes they can afford, we really haven't done enough. And thanks to Caribridge, that's one project that I think if we're sitting here a year from today, it would be either occupied or probably hopefully not very far from it at the point in time. Back to Vicki.
With all due respect, what I'm hearing is my family doesn't matter and needs to quantify their existence, because you said the money is there. And we all apparently need to figure out the magic words and the magic whatever to prove that the need is there. We need to wait for more studies, which we have all the proof. We've had previous studies done. Sean, I'm not sure when you and I started this, but I think it was in 2019. We sat together at the first meetings there at the community center, and then we entered into COVID and all that. So like, that's why I'm so passionate, is because it's been a long time. It really, really has. And I feel like there's been no progress being made at all. I mean, Courtney and I have held a tenants' right workshop, which is great. That was a great success, but I feel like it's just not enough. And we're just relying on this. Last year, for a deliverable, I had made a not a newsletter, excuse me. It was tips for prospective renters, and the town liked it. And this was on my free time. I did this because I saw so many people needing help, just basic help to get into rentals. So I made this, and then the town liked it, and they said, hey, can we use that and publish it on our website? And I said, absolutely. But that's as far as we've gotten, and I acknowledge this. I don't know what more I can do. My family's going to be next, and I can't have that happen. I mean, there's so many people that are watching this right now in a motel room. You know, there's so many people that spent Christmas in a motel, Christmas on the streets. I have so many, like, what did you say, hearsay of people being on the streets. It's not hearsay. I'm not a frontline worker, but that's how much I've seen. And that's scary to me because I'm not a frontline worker, but that's how much I've seen. I don't know what more to do, what more to say, what more to quantify for anybody's existence to matter, because at this point, everybody's mental health is going to suffer when they're homeless or about to be. Hint.
Well, Vicki, we don't disagree, and that's why we're here. And I get the stories firsthand as well, because quite often people can't find any other solution. They end up calling me or emailing me or messaging me. But it's not as widespread. I would suggest that unless we hear from the individual who's affected, we're not hearing it directly. And that's not disrespect. That's a matter of trying to make sure that
I'm right,
people,
right
if
here.
if I can finish, Vicki, with an interruption, please. What I'm trying to do here is trying to ensure that members of our council have the understanding they need to make the best decision for our community. And if I simply believe that some are looking for more information and more understanding.
So what's the most COVID-friendly, safe way to find a homeless person and ask them to go and pretty much embarrass themselves further and prove to council why they matter and why they need a house and why they deserve a house? Like, what's the best way about going through that?
Every member of council has a phone number and an email address, and reach out. And if people want to reach out individually, anyone watching today who's been impacted wants to let the members of our council know how they're impacted, please reach out. And reach out to myself, reach out to others.
To that point, if anybody watching wants to reach out but wants to remain anonymous, feel free to message myself or Courtney Priest on Facebook. We will happily share your story anonymously. Thank you.
They can also call anonymously. You speak to us, that's fine. Anyway, Joanne.
Okay, I'm sort of getting confused with, we're talking about county and then we're talking about council, Smith Falls Council. And my understanding is that there was a proposal made that we would take tax dollars from Smith Falls taxpayers and we would put it in an account, and that would be money that we could share with residents of Smith Falls towards their rent. Is that not what we're discussing right now, or are we trying to also do two different things? Because being with the council, with the county, that's one discussion, but the discussion that I thought we were having, in that I think that's where council wants more information, is how is this money going to be distributed? Am I correct in understanding this, or wrong?
So, no, you're right, Joanne. It's two, I say more than two, but break it down to the two pieces, but you're both very much interconnected. So I think council, council asked for more information, and we can provide more information to council, but there still may be a sense that the council may not want to do anything until we find out what the county does after receiving its housing study. So it's what comes first. And I think there's widespread understanding that if we create a portable housing benefit that benefited 50 families, that would be utilized pretty quickly, because I expect everyone in council recognizes the need is greater than that. But it's also recognizing or hoping the county would take this on instead of the town taking it on. It's recognizing that a commitment has to be in perpetuity. And once you start it, you can't stop it. And so there may be some reluctance to do that. Also not knowing what provincial or federal governments may do, suggesting that that's where the real dollars have to come from when it comes to housing. And both have made major commitments towards housing. I would say commitments, but not the follow through may not be the way we would like to see it. So it's a multifaceted issue. I think why we got off in tangents here, because there is no single solution here. If we were talking simply about should the town proceed with a portable housing benefit and commit X dollars per year, that is one straightforward, simple way to look at it. But council is going to look at it in as part of how I say this. There are many conflicting demands for dollars within the municipality, and every member of council has been elected to follow through with what they believe is the best use of the tax dollars we receive, at the same time maintaining the infrastructure that we need to maintain and doing the things that we need to do. How does that conflict with housing and a portable housing benefit? Well, if we were in the business of providing a portable housing benefit, we had this already and we had the systems in place to manage it, it was a matter of simply increasing what we put towards it, it'd be a different question. But it's building a new program is obviously a different challenge. Lindsay, I know you've got to head out shortly. I'll go to you next.
Yeah, just like a comment honestly before I head out, which is like, obviously you and Lorraine, like you sit in on these meetings, and I don't by any account think that neither of you are not listening and not hearing definitely what's being said. I think what's unfortunate is you both are a portion of council, and the remaining of the members do not sit in these meetings and do not have this reoccurring conversation happen that's consistent in what we're trying to communicate as a need. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think sucks is the members on council are going to just obviously choose what they feel is important. You two sit on this council or this committee, and I applaud you both, honestly, because I also know that we yell at you guys sometimes too, because there's just frustration. At the end of the day, though, I mean, you can only relay what's coming from here so much, and I guess that's sometimes where then more reports and more data have to be put together. for maybe the rest of council to just believe, I guess, what you're hearing and saying from us on this committee. And although, again, we get heated in here, like, don't stop, please keep these meetings going. Whatever we can do to bring the rest of the council members, I think, into some of these meetings, and to continue to educate them. You know, we have to educate people about affordability, about accessibility, about racism. There's a lot of things, and hopefully with a new election coming up, there'll be a transition of people who actually maybe understand these issues from lived experiences, that start to, you know, see the priority in them. That's all I'll say is, I truly just don't think anyone on council relates to any of these issues, which is why they're not important enough. It doesn't matter to them because they've never lived it. And until a family member of theirs suffers from it, or they themselves go through it, I don't think we're going to make much of a difference in terms of changing their mind at this point. And that's some hard truth. But anyways, with that, I do have to sign off. I just want to say, like, to you and Lauren, thank you. But I think there's a huge disconnect with this council and the community and their needs.
Well, thanks, Lizzie, but I will respectfully disagree. I think frankly, this is the third council I've worked with, by far the most socially responsible. This would not have been a consideration with past councils, I don't think. So I think we've come a long ways. We may not be exactly where we would like us to be. And I think if Lorraine and I were the only two voters, we probably would have put this in place based on the understanding we've gained from working with this group here. We simply want to make sure that other members of council have the insight, the understanding we've been able to gain. There's a strong social conscience across this council, and so I will support, and I'm not saying that this won't happen. It is possible, but again, we're going somewhere where no Smith Falls Council, no lower tier or other small single tier I'm aware of in the province has gone. So we would be embarking in territory and doing something that has not been done before. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I don't mind going places people haven't gone before, but we need to make sure that everyone has the same comfort level that Lorraine and I have. So I'm going to go into Joanne and then Jeff.
Okay, so then again, bye, Lindsay. Then again, is it not possible that to separate the two for the council, where we are trying to, I know it's a Band-Aid if we have it we the town and only looking for the town, but I think at some point we can't just pass the buck, and we can't say, well, let's wait to see what the province is going to say, and let's wait and see what the county is going to say. Why can't we look at what is important in our town? We've come up with one solution, and that would be if we assign some dollars from the taxpayers to help our citizens and our community, and still be supportive and working hard with the counties so that we have our voices heard for the province, like the bigger picture. But let's try and break it down so that at least one area has a little bit of support. And because like just last week, I've put 3 people on wait list for housing subsidy, not housing being part, like just to have subsidized housing so that they can have like 3 people. 2 are from Perth and 1 is from here in Smith Falls. We can't resolve the county. So is there not a way that we could address Smith Falls? Maybe we could be an example for Perth or Carleton Place, and then they could sort of adopt what we're doing and then work on the county altogether. Like, I don't know, does that make sense?
Well, that's the route we've attempted to go, and we may still get there, right? And of course, this is a solution which was not part of the original 17 recommendations from the Housing Task Force. This is something that emerged from this group. I think, Vicky, I think it was originally your suggestion. So we still have all the other recommendations that we've been following through with that will make a difference, but everything takes time. This is the one I think that makes the most immediate and probably the most meaningful impact if we can put this together. Back to Courtney, please.
I just want to make one little comment about something you said. You said that this would be like the first time something like this has been done, and that like whatever, but clearly the things we've been doing in the past haven't been working. So like maybe it's time to try something new and something that hasn't been done.
Sorry, Courtney, my audio wasn't great there. I missed part of what you said. Anybody else hear okay? No, sorry, Courtney. Can you maybe be a little bit louder?
Just to your comment before, you said that this would be like the first time something like this has been done. And like, just saying maybe this is what we need to do, because clearly nothing in the past has worked or really made a difference like this would.
Yes, good point. Thank you. Okay. So I wasn't looking for particular action today. Or an outcome today. I wanted to make sure that we at least informed. I didn't expect we'd have an hour-long discussion on this, but I appreciate everyone's feedback and passion. And as I indicated, I think, well, if you go back and check our committee of the whole meeting from December 13th, I think it starts at about the 90-minute mark. So that is available if you want to have a chance to hear the feedback from members of council. That might give you some understanding as to some of the questions that maybe I've missed today. But I can tell you that Councillor Allen and I believe strongly in this. And I think it's partially because of what we're hearing and what we're seeing through your eyes. So thank you. I understand we have more of an agenda. I will move on now to item B, update on affordable housing CIP request for proposal. Senior Planner Carl Granke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick update. As committee is aware, Council gave pre-budget approval for a community improvement plan project where we're looking to update and redo our downtown one, but also create a new affordable and attainable housing CIP covering the entire town, where we would be looking at creating some incentives for affordable and accessible housing. So the request for proposals were due to the town on this past Monday, the 17th, and we've received three qualifying bids from qualified bidders. So we have three people, all who came in around close to the budget allocation we've had. Staff are reviewing the submissions and look forward to submitting a recommendation to council to select a bidder. So I think that's an important first step of the project. And once we've selected the bidder, then we'll get started on this right away. Obviously, the county is doing some work, and some of our neighbors are doing some work as well. And certainly we expect that's going to inform what our consultants do in creating their Made for Smith Falls plan.
Thanks, Carl. Could you just take a quick moment, and just for those who may not be familiar with a community improvement plan, especially an affordable housing and attainable housing one, just take a moment and explain for the public or new members of the committee what that means, what that is.
So a community improvement plan is it's one of the few policy tools we have in our municipal toolbox that allow for allow for the town to create incentives and provide financial support to private businesses and developers. And what a lot of municipalities are doing is using this using the tool that's available to actually create specific programs supporting affordable housing or other community benefits that we've identified. So as you may know, right now we have a tax abatement program in effect for just the downtown core, and we've used that to leverage, which is going to help offset the tax increase on the 28-unit Carebridge home on Chambers Street. So what we're looking at is extending something like this across the entire town. And we wouldn't just be looking at tax abatements. There's also loan programs for conversions and a number of other things. And we've asked the consultants to create something that offers good value for the town.
Great, thanks, Carl. Any questions? No, okay, we will move on to update on additional residential units. After you, Carl.
Thank you. This will be very quick as well. As council is, or as the committee is aware, we were working with consultants to create new official plan and zoning policy allowing additional residential units, both within single detached, semi-detached, and townhouse dwellings, as well as outside. So say in backyards. So we've held the public meeting for that back in November. The Planning Advisory Committee had some feedback on that. We've revised the policy, and that's now been approved by council. So I'm pleased to advise the committee that backyard accessory dwellings are now permitted in zoning, as well as on a broader basis within our additional units. So this was identified as a priority by the Housing Advisory Committee, and this has been completed in advance of the zoning review, of the full zoning review.
Great, thanks, Carl. Joanne?
Are you referring to like having the tiny homes? Is that what when you're saying the backyard, is that what you're referring to, is the tiny homes?
Well, tiny homes we haven't specifically referred to tiny homes in the policy, but it can certainly include any smaller dwelling that's on a permanent foundation. So we don't have a minimum, we don't have a minimum dwelling unit size through this new zoning policy. It can be as small as what the building code will allow. So it can include a tiny home so long as it's anchored to a foundation.
And okay, so I guess that would mean too that you have to have enough room for all your plumbing and everything, right? So it would have to also be considered with the main home and the addition, however you want to put it, so that they meet the criteria for hooking up to the town's water and sewer plant.
Yes, that would all need to be looked at, and our public works and engineering department, utilities, they look at any building permit, so that would need to be confirmed at the building permit stage. They would need to meet code. The zoning policy also prescribes some setback and lot coverage provisions as well.
Okay, thanks, Carl. Just on the tiny home front, the decision made at County Council to apply to be part of a pilot project with what's called Cabinscape. They're a new manufacturer of self-contained tiny homes. So they're applying for a federal grant. If the federal grant comes through, there'll be, I think, two tiny homes built on a county-owned lot in Perth. The contribution by the county, I think it's about $95,000 for the 2 units. So it's very cost effective if the grant from the federal government is obtained. So that may be the first of what may be a trend that could be possible across the county and across the province. And I think there's Some of the barriers that have been challenging here, like as an example, having the building inspection part of it. If these units can be built with CSA approvals, I understand that it will sort of forego the need for having local building inspection and things like that. So there's a number of things evolving that hopefully will be making positive contributions to I guess, maybe homeowners who can add these units in their backyard at some point in time. Okay, moving on item D, renovations motion update. Director Costello.
Thank you. Just quickly, this was one that was on our agenda September, October-ish, and it's regarding a motion that we received. And it's regarding landlords who evict tenants claiming that they're going to do renovations. So we at the last meeting that this was discussed, there was kind of two follow-up items that I followed up on. One was brought up by Lindsay, and unfortunately she's left. She asked about what would happen if the landlord was found to give false information or doing this to a tenant under false pretenses. I did follow up with Linda Tranter and I did some research online. So there is provisions in the Act for if the board determines that a landlord has given a notice of termination in bad faith, there is a monetary charge that they could be laid as well. They could have to pay for out-of-pocket moving, storage, or other expenses. So there is, Lindsay was just asking if there was anything that would happen to the landlord if they were deemed to have been kind of caught doing this. So there are provisions in the legislation that if a landlord is caught, they are charged per se. I don't want to say criminally, but the board can fine them in different ways, whether it be charging them back the rent, making them pay for out-of-pocket moving expenses, things of that nature. The other item that came out of that discussion was the idea of making up a guide or something that would help renters who are looking for some place to go, or just one that we consolidated all of our information. So I did reach out to Linda Tranter again to see if there was something that they could provide. And she did provide me with a link, and I will send it to all of you, but she did caution us and actually noted that she didn't think it was wise for us to create our own because things change so rapidly. So they do have one on their site, and I will forward it to all of you for our use, but she did caution about doing one on our own just because things change so rapidly. So I will circulate that link to all of you so you can take a peek at it and see what they're giving out from their site. But those are the two follow-up items that came from the last discussion, Chair Panko, that I wanted to give an update on.
Okay, thank you. And for any members of the public who are watching, and if you do receive an eviction notice, whether that's via text or in writing or verbally from your landlord, always seek legal advice. Go to the legal clinic in Perth, reach out to Linda Tranter, and ensure that you have proper representation when it comes to that process. Because we continue to hear on a very regular basis of people who are being evicted through different tactics, including a renovation or properties being sold. They often don't know their legal rights. And in many cases, they simply complied with the direction of their landlord and are left in a very dire situation trying to find a home in a very tight and unaffordable market. Okay, so thanks, Carrie. Back to you for F, the town's vaccination policy update.
So I just wanted to give this group a bit of an update. So the town has passed a vaccination policy, and again, I can send that out to all of you if I haven't done so already. As members of boards and committees who may at some point actually get to attend a meeting at the town hall, hopefully, that we would have to have your certificate or your QR code since you would be in the building attending a meeting. I just wanted to make you all aware of that condition. It doesn't. Right now, we're fine. We're still in a virtual format, but should we come out of a virtual format and actually start to meet in person, that will come into play. So I will, after this meeting, ensure that all of you get a copy of the town's vaccination policy. It was adopted by council, but as committee members, it does fall onto you as well. And it is, depending on the change in provincial or federal legislation, it could change the policy as well. Of course, you will be kept abreast of any changes to it, but wanted to make you all aware of the policy that's been adopted. And the policy, for everybody's knowledge, it entails both staff, contract staff, council members, committee members. I know I'm forgetting people, Mayor Panko, but anybody who's in the building for a prolonged length of time for a meeting or something, we would require a vaccination certificate or QR code. So just a heads up, praying that we actually do get to meet in person in the near future, that would be a requirement.
An in-person meeting, wouldn't that be a novel idea?
Wouldn't it? Be nice to finally actually see everybody. The last time I think we did was Housing Task Force.
Mm-hmm. That was Jeff and Vicky, I guess, from this group. Okay. Point in time count. Carrie, can you put that up?
Yeah.
Please?
Was there one right before that, Mayor Panko, membership on the agenda? No.
No, I think I that is G on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, we skipped over. We skipped over after renovations. We skipped over the membership.
Oh, sorry. Yes, my mistake.
That's all right. I just wanted to give a quick update. There was a question before our last meeting about our terms of reference and the membership, membership in our terms of reference, as we had a member have change of employment. There are conditions in the terms of reference that members would be sought from various agencies, whether it be a realtor or renter. It's not mandated. So our mandate specifically right now, the structure is a minimum of 7 members and a maximum of 11 membership. So the member who changed their employment is here to stay. So happy to say that, because we'd love to keep her. So there is no strict requirement for the different sectors. It's just a minimum and maximum with sectors where it would be sought, but it's not mandated.
Super, thank you. And to the point, anyone watching this is interested in participating in a broader way and wants to join, certainly reach out to Carrie. She could guide anyone through the process.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the point in time count came up to, I guess most are probably familiar with that. It came to County Council, Community Services back in November, I believe it was. So I wanted to just have a brief run through this. And I think Ali, I think you'd raised it earlier in the meeting. Carrie's going to share her screen and put it up. I'll walk through the presentation that presented to Community Services.
I'm trying to pull it up here, Sean. My emails kind of just froze for a second. So if you want to start, I'll try to catch up with you.
Well, I don't have it in front of me, so
oh, okay. Well, then we'll all wait.
Let's see. I can't put it here.
I think I have it in the. I saved the presentation, so I'll pull that in the interim.
So in 2021, when the count was completed last September on the 21st, 58 people presented as absolutely homeless, and these were individuals staying in the emergency funded motel, a domestic violence shelter, or in public places on the night of the count. Also included were people who were either unknown by the numerator where they would be staying that night, or unsure where they were staying, or declined to answer. Of course, the previous count that was done in 2018 totaled 27 people in the county. So the number more than doubled. And so if you go, I don't know if you got it up there yet, Carrie?
Yeah, can you not see it up on the screen yet?
I do now, yeah. Okay, so if you look at location, first Smith Falls Carlton Place being the primary. And I think to Ali's point earlier and in other discussions, this is a snapshot in time conducted through various organizations and agencies, but probably does not truly capture the full volume of people who are either homeless or at risk of homelessness. Next slide, please. So it's just some demographic information. 59% were women, and if we go back to 2018 results, it was more men than women that were considered homeless, and certainly adults and youth making up the vast majority of those impacted. Just some details on sexual orientation, ancestry, and language, which is probably reflective of our overall demographics in the community. Some identified as Indigenous, and recognizing, I read something recently, obviously a disproportionate number of those homeless are Indigenous, despite them being a smaller portion of our population. So sources of income, and this is probably no surprise to any of us. People in ODSB, and as we've discussed before, I believe Smith Falls has about over 900 people in ODSB. I think the Smith Falls office actually handles somewhere around 1,100, a caseload around 1,100. Now that would include children who could be a recipient, or could be children of ODSB recipients. So it's a large portion of our population, and if you see here, the number one reasons people are homeless is because their income is too modest. So you look at over 60% are relying on ODSB or Ontario Works. And duration, which is obviously quite concerning, the average length for each of the respondents was 230 days. So definitely an issue when you've got people who have been homeless on average that length of time, so roughly 8 months. And where are they staying? Well, I guess that's why they are not, maybe as we don't have the same level of visible homelessness as we may see in the city, where you see people people in the streets or bus shelters or elsewhere. Here, they're probably more precariously housed, and certainly the highest portion of 44% are crashing on someone's couch. And Ali, I'd like you to, when we get through this, maybe you can chime in based on your own personal experiences and professional experiences as to where these people are staying and the risk that comes with that. Next slide. And again, probably not a shocker, but 35% they don't have enough money for housing. And with housing costs rising, that issue isn't going away anytime soon. When people cite landlord-tenant conflict, again, it makes me wonder, without understanding more, are these people who were potentially wrongfully evicted or evicted for some of the wrong reasons? Mental health issue, I think, is consistent, unfortunately, and people who are suffering abuse may be leaving a difficult situation and taking a risk of being homeless rather than being in a more abusive situation. And from a wellness standpoint, as you can see the numbers there, 81% struggle with mental health issues, and whether that is a factor in them becoming homeless or a result of them being homeless, I think regardless, they need to be housed and probably need some additional supports around them. 57% have medical conditions, 55% physical limitation. As you can see the numbers here, so it's many of these people would be relying on ODSB or other forms of disability income. And with such modest fixed income, there's no question why they are having a difficult time finding a place to live and affording a place to live. Well, again, no shocker here. Rent's too high, 93%, or not enough income to pay the rents that are being demanded out there. And so the by name list, 47 of these, so there was 54, consented to be on the by name list. This will enable a service provider, the county, to stay in touch and track how these individuals move forward when they get housed, to help them get housed, to help them connect with resources. So that's a positive outcome of this. And I'm hopeful we would see feedback, obviously in future years, as the outcome of them being able to connect to resources and how that helps them get into hopefully permanent housing and supportive housing where required.
That's it.
That's the last slide. Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay. Any comments or questions? Ellie?
Yeah, sure. I'll just speak to kind of, as you kind of insinuated, the where or the location. I think, two things. One, when we think about couch surfing, that's not like, hey, bestie, come hang out on my couch until you sort your stuff out. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. That's yeah, you can sleep like in my garage, or you can sleep in the basement, or yeah, sure, you can sleep on the couch for the night. And then you need to find somewhere else to go, or you can stay for 2 nights and then you need to find somewhere else to go. So that precariousness and that stress, like, is literally never ending. I think also, speaking as someone who helped do the point in time count, you've got a lot of people in tents, right? Who are living in tent encampments, who are, for lack of a better word, hiding from the public because, they're embarrassed, or, they don't want people coming knocking on their tent because, I don't like people coming knocking on my door. So, they want to stay off the track a little bit, especially when, you're not at the, it doesn't just take heart to end homelessness. That's been something that's been really on my mind as of lately. It takes skill. You have to be able to work, from a trauma-informed practice. You have to be able to work, with individuals. There's a lot of trauma around housing and homelessness. And you can't just, show it. It's lovely that people want to just show up and, hey, how can I help? But there's a lot more to it. So I think there's a lot of people who, try to remain hidden because they don't want to be bothered by, either people that are just nosy or trying to help. But it's important to remember that intent does not always mean impact, or good intent does not always mean good impact. So I think that's something, we don't see it as we do in Ottawa or in the cities, homelessness. There's not that sense of community around our individuals who are homeless. It's much more isolating when you're out rurally. That's all.
And Ellie, from your, your professional experience, obviously the numbers are greater than what we experience, what we see here. And if you could wave your magic wand and provide the most meaningful of solutions, what would it be?
I've harped on this a couple times, but I think really taking that housing first philosophy into account, and, adopting that throughout Smith Falls and throughout Lanark County is truly the best way to go. Like, others have mentioned, it's not just providing housing, but it's providing those supports that individuals can stay housed. And it's also meeting people where, right, it also looks at meeting people where they are. You don't, there's no prerequisites. You get housed, and everything else, we work on afterwards, whether that's education or employment or mental health or substance use. You can't, it's ridiculous to think that you can do any of that and then get housed. Like, no, you can't, you just can't. That's impossible. I'm sorry. So really looking at that kind of housing first philosophy, which, takes into account those wraparound supports. It's not just housing first, here, we put you in a house, sayonara, have a good day. It's okay, we've got you housed, let's keep you housed. and looking at different approaches to that and working with our landlords, right? And working with our tenants to kind of mediate that conversation. I think we have a lot of, mom and pop shop type landlords, but we've also got a lot of big company landlords recently moving to Smith Falls and Lanark County. And I think it's important to take into consideration like communication styles and language. Sometimes you just need a mediator because, people get defensive, people get offended, right? And having that mediator to kind of help that conversation between landlords and tenants is really important to look at. And, those wraparound supports, that's what they're there for, right? Whether, you know what I mean? We saw a majority of individuals who filled out that point time count were on OW or ODSP. I mean, if you're on ODSP, you have a disability. So 100% of the people you're working with, if you're working from an ODSP standpoint, have a disability. So you need to be able to work with that population, and you need to be able to work with people from various kind of backgrounds and various language barriers. And that takes skill. That doesn't, happen over a phone call. You need to leave the office to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Ellie. Joanne, you're also someone who's seen this in the front lines.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's nice to be working on housing, but there's baggage that comes with housing. And I think you saw it by those slides. A lot of people have mental health, anxieties, trust issue, a lot of family children services. We did talk a little bit before about slumlords. And, that's where I also see a responsibility of the town to be looking at, and I did mention it before, regarding landlords being accountable to their tenants. And, and you said these eviction notice. Well, if you have somebody that is on disability and don't quite understand all the logistics, and the landlord just says, yeah, okay, I want you out, that just creates more and more anxiety within the people that we work with. So yeah, it's not just a band-aid, and it's not just let's have some houses. It's a big issue, but the first step is they have to be safe. So it's having housing that is safe and affordable for them, so that they have a little bit of control in their lives, and then the support with whatever is happening in their lives. So.
Thank you. So it's supply and supports. So any further comments here? Well, thanks to both of you for your insightful feedback. Okay, the last item on our agenda, the item H, addressing homelessness in the United Counties of Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark, issues and opportunities presentation. I'm not going to go through that. It's about a 45-page document. And so it's very extensive. It's split between the two counties. Of course, we border the two counties, but it is on the, I believe it's on the agenda, on the website, the agenda package. Yeah. So encourage everyone to have a chance to go through that. I think it's somewhat repetitive of things we may already understand and already know. But again, it was presented to County Council in December, so I want to make sure everyone here was aware of it. So before we wrap up, I'll just provide an opportunity for a bit of a roundtable for any closing comments by any member of our committee. Okay, go ahead, Vicki, and then, okay, we got a few hands up now. Okay, go ahead, Vicki.
Thanks. I do want to apologize for getting, for lack of a better word, upset. I am very passionate about this. I do see how it affects not just myself, but many members of our community, both people I know personally and not personally, people on social media. You can't escape it. It's really getting to a point where I feel it's sink or swim. And I feel like we're almost robbing Peter to pay Paul at this point. But now I hear we have money. So, you know, it's sink or swim. Action is what we need. And I hope that going forward, we can produce some results that help the renters, especially because I know that that's a big portion of who needs the most help right now. Thank you very much, everybody, too, for your insight. Thank you, Sean, for taking the brunt of my blow. And thank you, Lorraine, for bringing your insight too to council. I appreciate you all.
Vicky, don't need to apologize, and we wouldn't expect anything different from you. We appreciate your purpose and your passion, and frankly, it's 42% of our citizens who rent their homes. So we're talking about a huge portion of our population. Joanne?
Just for like action, will you be able to provide a list of what it is exactly, like what Ella was saying, exactly what the council needs in order for them to make a decision, so that we are not just frustrated by trying to provide more and more data that is repetitive?
Yeah, that's my sense of what they are looking for. They didn't specifically said we need to know how many people are out there who are struggling and can't afford their rent. I guess from my perspective, it's building a case and trying to help everyone understand maybe this, and hearing the things that we hear. So the things they specifically ask for are things we will get from the county. How does this program work? What are the details of it? And again, I think there may be some reluctance to put a policy in place that is permanent and that will bind future councils forever, probably to follow through with this unless the issue goes away at some point in time. But I think if hearing from individuals who are facing these challenges, who are even someone who said, well, look, I was paying $700 a month for rent last year. I had to move. I'm paying $1,200 now. My income is $2,000, and I've got $800 a month to pay every other expense I have to pay for. And you know, a trip to the grocery store, $100 doesn't get you much nowadays, or even a couple $100. And so the challenges people are facing, and we know that really to be able to afford a quality of life, we should be spending more than 30% of our income on housing. And I think there's so many people in the community who are paying far more than that. So I think it's perhaps the individual outreach of people providing feedback. Anybody who hears it, anybody you know who may want to provide feedback, might be the easiest method. I mean, we could survey the community. I'm sure we could get feedback indicating that a lot of people are far worse shape today than what they were on the 2016 census data. It will help provide some information too, but that's not going to be available till spring and maybe mid-year before we have much meaningful data from it. Ellie?
Yeah, I just kind of closing up. I just wanted to let everybody know, and I hope council it takes a look at, but there was the Ontario Housing Summit that kicked off today, which had some, which hopefully the report will come out this year from that. But also you can check out the United Way Greater Toronto open letter that was sent to the Provincial Municipal Housing Summit on topics and themes to kind of tackle and the big issues around housing and affordable housing and homelessness. So I hope everyone takes a look at that.
That's the one you shared, Ellie?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. And I had, and yes, and that is my understanding, at least that's a big city mayors who were part of that summit earlier today. But my understanding from Minister Clark is that we anticipates having one with smaller communities as well.
Yeah, and I really hope that we can start seeing, some council members, whether Lanark County or Smith Falls, be delegates at some of these bigger meetings that are happening. I think it's important for us to kind of get feedback, but I think it'd also be really great to provide that more rural and remote information too.
Exactly, thank you. Director Costello.
I just wanted to let everybody know, in case anybody saw it, and the links were on Facebook and I can send it out, but there was an article in the Brockville Recorder and Times regarding housing incentives for landlords and homeowners. And it's the committee, the Joint Service Committee of Leeds and Grenville provided a forgivable interest-free loan of up to $25,000 for small landlords who build secondary suites in their properties. So I'll send this out, but I am trying, I've sent an email to the director, I think it's of community services with Leeds and Grenville. I'm hoping that she would come and give us a presentation of how they did this and involved all the communities within Leeds Grenville. She hasn't responded, but I'm going to keep hounding her and hoping that she'll come to our next meeting to provide us with the delegation. So I'll send out the link if nobody's seen read the article yet. But I'm trying, if anybody, or Mayor Panko, if you know the director.
I don't down there, but I'm sure you'll get looked after by next meeting. And I think I sit with a degree of envy for our neighbors to the south of Leeds Granville, where they've got their MPP, who is the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and we consistently see some great things happening down there. And sadly, I think we sit in the void here with no representation at Queen's Park, and it probably leaves us at some disadvantage, unfortunately. Anyway, thanks for everyone's participation today. I guess next meeting date. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Yeah, I just want to, I think we said the wrong date. It's that next Thursday, the 26th, or sorry, next Wednesday, the 26th, the development charges meeting that we're going to have at 5 o'clock. And just, I know Lindsay's been very passionate about this and has brought it up a number of times, but when I heard it tonight, I thought, yeah, that makes sense to me. So I'm looking forward to that meeting, and hopefully some of you will be able to listen in and see what happens. Thanks.
Yeah, and Carrie, is it still possible for people to register to actively participate?
It certainly is. They can contact Nadine Bennett. I think it's Nadine on the notice, or myself, and they'll list you as the delegation. I've sent the link out on the side here in the chat feature, but I can send it out via email as well to the group.
Please,
okay.
Because I know we will hear from people in the development community who will suggest that the town should not follow through the development charges policy. And
it's on our Facebook page as well.
So it'd be good to have feedback from a variety of sources. Next meeting date, we should plan for 2 weeks from now.
February 2nd.
February 2nd. And if, but for some reason, you're not able to line up the director from Leeds Grenville for that meeting, we may adjust the date, but we'll plan right now tentatively for that date. So thanks everyone for your passion, your sense of purpose, and your unwavering commitment to the people of our community. Collectively, I think we will get things done, and don't change being who you are. Have a good afternoon, everybody.